Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to this impromptu broadcast. Welcome. My name is Sadhana. Sorry, I'm not planned at all for today. My name is Sadhana. I'm an intuitive reader and healer. And the reason I'm here today is to talk a little bit about learning tarot. I offer a tarot course, and next week on Monday, I have planned a session where you will meet a few of my students, and they are going to offer feedback onto what it's like to learn tarot with me. However, there are a few of you in the UK and the EU who are not able to make that live session, and so I thought I would come on today and just be here to answer questions about learning tarot. What is your greatest challenge in learning tarot? Or perhaps what is that, what is it that thing you can't quite get confident enough with? The last couple of courses that I've taught, I've had students who were brand new to tarot, and in the same class, people who've been reading tarot for years. And maybe the way that I look at tarot is a little different than some people, but that's kind of what I want to share with you today. So I am here to offer you to answer anything that you want to ask about learning tarot, because I know it's a bit of a journey for some of you. So hello to everybody. Hi, Sissy. I will say hi to everybody that is coming in. Just give me 1 second here to get everything up and running. And of course, I must open YouTube as well too. This is the class that starts September 28th. And I also want you to know that I teach in small groups. So there won't be a lot of people in the class. I think that is, the live classes are, and I know some of you have taken live classes with other people as well too. And the thing about live classes is that you get to meet other students. And one of the biggest takeaways for some have been the friends that they have made in classes, or the tarot buddies, depending on how you want to, depending on what kind of a relationship that you build. So it really is, it's a great journey. It's a great thing to give yourself. Yeah. Okay. So YouTube is open. I will keep a handle on the chat there. And I see there's a few mods here as well too. So that's excellent. All right, let's go and say hi to everybody. So Scott was first in the door before I even came on. So of course, yes, ask away, Scott. Clavis, hello. Clavis is in my current Tarot Foundations class, and we have our 22nd class tomorrow. So that course is winding up. So she's going to be live next Monday when we get together with the students. Hello to Tarot Destiny, Janice, welcome to you. And who else do we have here? Jackie's here. Hi, Jackie. Namaste. Sharon, good afternoon. Welcome to you. Tamianne. Mira, Merlin's daughter. Hello. Welcome. Sunny Didi, happy Monday to you. And Joel, namaste. Welcome. Everybody's sharing their astrological signs. And we have such amazing things opening right now energetically. I'm going to be doing live readings tomorrow, and I'm expecting some very big messages to be coming through. We have some amazing things going on in the stars. Welcome also to Jamie. Hello. Okay, so Sunny, there are links to the class below in the description box, so you can go there. Oh, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Amy. Hi, Amy. So Amy's also in my current class, so she can chime in here. Hello to Diana, as well as Bunra. Hello from New Zealand. Welcome to all of you. Okay. So if I had to answer, many of you have watched me read on Tuesdays, so you have an idea of my process. I have studied tarot for over 25 years. I can't believe it. I started when one of my children was struggling with, um, I want to say, her spirituality. She was showing signs of not mediumship, but she was picking up on entities and energy. And this is when I went back to this sort of study. So it's been going on for a long time, and I connected with a wonderful person who became my mentor for many years, and it's been an amazing journey. My approach to tarot is one of, I want to say, it's like a spider web. And the process of reading is about stepping back and building those connections. And the fundamentals, I think, are an important part of that. And so, one of the things that I do go through are some very um, fundamental teachings. However, I teach them from multiple perspectives. So, nothing is taught in isolation. Nothing is taught in isolation. So we don't study one card at a time. You can also get a little bit of flavor with this if you've been a part of my tarot deep dives. So when I do a deep dive, I'm never looking at one card at a time. So yeah, exactly, Clavis. So Clavis says a neural network. And so what I truly believe as a reader is that these are these connections. So your eyes are connected to the artwork, and there's this really interesting relationship between the eyes and the gut. And if we trust, if we trust ourselves, when we say, like, we trust our instincts, sometimes we use gut as part of that. There's a very physical response to some of our intuitive pickups. It's not just things we hear clairaudiently or things like that. You do not need to be um, tuned in to your clairs to be a tarot reader. There are so many other skills that you can pull on to start to read. Yeah. So please go ahead and start to put your tarot questions into the chat, and I will go through them one at a time. And if you run out of questions, I have questions that I will answer. The most kind of common questions that people ask me. Sissy, you are an empath. Yeah. I also have taught other people's tarot classes. And the reason I created my, oh, okay, Sharon, I didn't, so I will go back. Okay. Sorry. I was teaching other people's tarot courses. And so I didn't like the content. I didn't like the way the content was organized. And so that's why I created my own course. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Sharon's comment. Here we go. My challenge is not getting overwhelmed by all the layers. Tree of life, numerology, astrology. I think, Sharon, one of the things that's important is to have a question. And I think a lot of people dive into readings and they'll go, oh, it's just a general. I tend to recommend beginners to stay away from general readings. I find that if you have a focus, maybe the question isn't dialed in, but you have a focus. There's some stuff that's been percolating. And so you want to put that focus out there and you want to articulate it. You want to maybe have a couple of significators or topic cards on the table. You want to write down your question or read your journaling prompt aloud. Because depending on the nature of the question, you will be drawn to a particular layer. It may be the numerology that speaks to you because of the sequence of cards or because of the repetitive numbers. And so I focus on one layer. And when that layer starts to make sense, and here's another thing that I suggest, and I mentioned this last class too, right, Clevis, Amy, is that if you do not articulate your readings, and Scott's here in the chat, I know he's doing live readings on Facebook and YouTube. If you do not speak your readings aloud, you don't get the full benefit of it. It's quite different than writing it down. I mean, of course, you can write your readings down, but write them down in full and complete sentences. So getting back to your question, Sharon, I would say that through the topic or through the question, that will lead you to a particular layer. And then work with that layer. And let that layer be enough for that particular reading. Okay. All right. So I'm going to scroll on down. I see Sunny DD has a question and Scott has a question. Let's go to Sunny DD. Very good question. That's a nice smile. I like your picture and your profile. I would say to have one straight up deck with Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork for sure. So that's important. I would suggest that you have a deck that stretches you a little bit. So perhaps the minors are, I was looking for a deck that's on my table. Perhaps the minors are less illustrated. So that might be one suggestion. And then I was looking for, I thought I had it on the table. Oh, yes, it is here. And then you could choose a deck that is based on the Rider-Waite-Smith. Now, the reason for this is that Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, the deck that was created by Waite, so this course is based on that system, is based on the energy of the Tetragrammaton. And the specific order that those suits appear in the deck is significant. Wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. And if you are working with a deck that, and I'm thinking Tarot of the She comes to mind, for example. Tarot of the She is a great energy deck to work with. But the way that deck has been created, it is not based on the Tetragrammaton. The first suit, the suit of creation, is the suit of swords. And that changes the flavor of the deck. I have opened a couple of decks lately. What was that one that I was showing you? Oh, the Forager's Daughter, which has since taken off my table. That is not based on the Rider-Waite-Smith. It is not, sorry, while it is based on the Rider-Waite-Smith, it is not a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It begins its journey in the suit of cups. And so the top 3 deck recommendations are to have one with Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, to have one that stretches you a little bit as far as less illustrated minors, and then to have a clone that you really like the artwork with. Okay. All right. So that is Sunny's question. And if you want specific names of decks, I'm not going to give them to you because there's just too many. Hello to Tina. Tina was in my last set of Tarot Foundations. Yes, and great Lugnasad to everyone. And perhaps we can do a reading for the collective before I sign off today. Okay. All right, so let's get to Scott's question. First of all, I want to remind you that I have a playlist on my channel that is called Card Comparisons. It's about 30 something videos long. The first, I want to say 10, 12 videos are public, and the rest of them are a members only feature. And this series of card comparisons looks at individual cards and talks about questions much like the one that Scott is asking right now. Okay, so please make sure you go to that playlist and mark it. Okay, it is on the front page of my channel. All right, so Scott's first question is, how do you explain the difference between the Three of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles? All right. So first of all, these are different numbers, and the numbers have such different energy. The threes and all of the threes are about creating something more than we can with two. There is this power of three, this power of triangulation that connects us to the Empress, that is about growth. So there is a fullness, there is a potential, there is a creative force that is within the threes. And if you look at Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, we see three people who are coming together. Perhaps there is a stonemason, there's an architect, maybe there is a designer, and they're coming together because without each other, they wouldn't be able to create something as magnificent as if they were working on their own, or even with two. So the Three of Pentacles is about teamwork, about trusting also that and I go back, I think about high school and all of the awkward situations where we were put together with a partner to do a project. And I want to say, I bet you had a lot more fun doing a group project than doing a partner thing. I know some people thrive individually, and threes can be very uncomfortable. Think about, so in the Marielle, for example, in the Three of Pentacles, I believe that's the card where we see the baby, we see the family. The Three of Pentacles is growth manifesting something in this three-dimensional reality. Manifesting something in this three-dimensional reality. Now, the Eight of Pentacles, on the other hand, it comes up in such beautiful times in the tarot. And there is a process. So if you think about the energy of 8 and the energy of the lemniscate and what that represents, there's a lot of magic to this number. There's something going on behind. I mean, the spirit is always working behind the scenes, but this is a big leveling up. I want you to think about the sevens. So the power of 7, the number 7 is really powerful in the tarot. There are 3 sets of 7 in the majors that are divided into 3 septenaries. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. There's also two groups of 7 in each of the minor arcana. And if we think about the major arcana, how it's organized 7, 7, 7, the Fool is not included in that, then what 8 represents is taking us to the next level. So 8s are about leveling up. There's an advancement of sorts. There's a deeper knowing. There's a deeper knowledge. It's no longer just about self. And when I see that person sitting in the 8 of Pentacles working away, and it's not always that exact art if you're working with a different deck, there's a greater trust of self. This is me on my journey. I'm focusing on my, I trust my hand in this. I trust that there's a sense of life path work here. And I have so much I could say about this, but I also want to say that. So while the Suit of Wands, I feel, is connected to Dharma, it's connected to life path. Pentacles in general are an extremely integrated suit. This is the suit that follows Wands, Cups, and Swords. So everything that we have learned in Wands, Cups, and Swords is contained in the Pentacles. And so by the time we get to the 8 of Pentacles, we're getting close to the end of a particular part of the journey. And it's almost as if there is a refocus on something that feels very close to our heart. I find this card comes up when people are returning to work, when they are considering shifting away from perhaps corporate life and they want to go into self-employment. Or perhaps you have a passion project that you've worked at, or maybe there's a craft or a hobby that you've loved for years, and you finally decide that you're good enough and you're going to take that to the marketplace. So it's got more of an individual focus to it. It's me trusting my own self. Okay. All right. Goodbye, Sharon. Hello to Idge. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I will read all of these. Okay, so I'm going to go to Scott's next question, and then I will. Then I'll carry on. Sissy Vintage Moon says, "I see the Empress as the mother of the Queen of Pentacles." That's kind of beautiful. All right, let's go to Empress and the Queen of Pentacles. Okay, which is Sissy just commented on. Okay. The Empress is the number 3, and all of the queens are also number 3. The Empress is connected to Venus. It's also connected to the element of Earth. It is also a major archetype. It has a relationship with the High Priestess. It has a relationship with the Emperor. It is the natural counterpart of the Emperor. So if we look at the Empress and the Emperor, there's a natural balancing of divine feminine and divine masculine energy in those two cards. Okay. The Empress tends to show up when we have significant milestone-like issues arising. So this could be a major shift with family or mothering responsibilities. It could be, depending on surrounding cards, right? Could be a major, perhaps you have a lot of subordinates underneath you at work, and you are responsible for them, and they are moving, maybe they're apprentices and they're moving on, that it's these archetypes don't show up for just little things. There's a reason why she may be there. She's also connected, of course, to the element of earth. So this might be actually important to your um, so both the Empress, of course, and the Queen of Pentacles are connected to the element of earth. And that's one of the things that ties them so closely together. The Queen of Pentacles, I tend to associate with the, and I, it's not necessarily gender. These are not gender specific either. These are energies connected to humans. And when I think of the Queen of Pentacles energy, this is someone who goes above and beyond as a caretaker, as a hostess, as a bunch of decks are flashing through my head right now, and I'm seeing a dinner table at the holidays laden with dishes and dishes, and somehow they are magically able to provide for everyone. Or perhaps they are the kind of person who invites strangers to their table at Thanksgiving and are able to provide and manage and care for all of that. There's a great sense of the caretaker here. This is very deeply connected to mothering instinct. And I want to say that while the Empress is also the great mother archetype, she has more of a untouchable quality to her. So if I were to speak in yogic terms, I would say that she is Shakti. She is Gaia. She is the trees. She is all that is manifest. You can't hold her. She's not going to hold you in her arms and comfort you. She's not going to make supper for you. She has servants to do that. If we're thinking about the Empress in a three-dimensional way, there's less tangibility with the Empress than there is with the Queen of Pentacles. The Empress, like we see in Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, may be sitting on her throne in the garden, but I don't necessarily see her as the one who is harvesting the garden herself. And it's funny, I did a reading last week about, a woman was talking about her husband, and one of the things that I felt intuitively, also the cards displayed, was this Queen of Pentacles energy. And I suggested one of the ways to bring him back in was to let him design the garden in this new property that they were building. I forget what all the cards were. And we were talking about this relationship because he's also a lawyer. But the way he was describing him and what was coming up in the reading was that he had a lot of receptive qualities about him. And that the way to kind of entrance him back into the relationship, entrance him back into the family, would be to let those qualities shine. And so we were discussing this hands-on approach versus the hands-off approach. The hands-off approach would be to be fully involved, but you would hire a landscape architect or somebody to help you design the garden, and you would pay for it, as opposed to the Queen of Pentacles, who would want to be more involved in the hands-on. So that's one thing I really feel is different between this. Now, I also want to touch on the corporate world, because sometimes we see the kings and the queens represented mundane kind of qualities in corporate corporate life and where they stand. And the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles are described as business people. Business people. And I would never describe the Empress as a business person. If she were in that particular hierarchy, she would be, and I'm not familiar with all the terms for the corporate world, but the Empress would be the one in the background, perhaps, who oversees a multiplicity of corporations. So, sometimes we see those, like she wouldn't have money in her pocket, so to speak. So I hope that gives you a little bit of food for thought. And I'm sure I have a video in that playlist I mentioned about the queens and the Empress. Okay. All right. So you're welcome, Sharon. Yes, numerology is really important. Okay, Joel says that was really helpful for me as well, as I almost use all the layers all the time and get overwhelmed. So this is going back to Sharon's question. Yes, simplify. Keep it simple, one layer at a time. And I use the word marinate. Marinate. Let your readings marinate. If possible, leave your readings on the table and write about one layer today. And then tomorrow you can come back and write about a different layer, if that layer seems to apply to your reading. You're welcome, Sunny. Yes, this is a very important thing that I think gets overlooked. Okay, well, I hope your husband, take good care of your husband. All right, I want to say hello to IJ. I just want to also hype Sadhana's membership. Her videos are basically loving lectures, incredibly loaded with wisdom. Thank you so much. And this lovely soul, IL, also known as IJ or Ijeoma, has some amazing comments underneath many of my videos, and I really appreciate you. So thank you for that. Okay, here is Joel's question. Which tarot system do you prefer? Personally. Okay. This is a really interesting question. Why is this an interesting question? Because I find that, and this is one of my pet peeves with new decks, or I shouldn't say new decks. I want to say decks that are put together. They claim to be a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but they don't have the layers or the building blocks of the Rider-Waite-Smith. So the Smith-Waite deck is built on astrology, Kabbalah, the chakra system, numerology, and probably many, many, many more layers. And when you read a little white book or you read some guidebooks, it doesn't appear as if all of those layers are a priority. I feel often that in what happens in learning this particular tarot system is that all of a sudden the Eight of Cups just becomes a deck about leaving. We don't necessarily talk about the astrology of eclipses, which is what we see in this artwork. Um, there's a lot that gets missed in this deck. And so personally, ooh, so that's a big plus for that deck. My problem with the Thoth, even though I love this deck and I work with this deck, what is my problem? My problem is some of the keywords. I absolutely love the artwork for the most part. And I love that the minors are less illustrated. So for the most part, for me, less is more. Because what happens if you are reading with a heavily illustrated deck is that you tend to get, and I call it, you get painted into corners. So all of a sudden, this particular card looks like it's a card about death or pain, or I don't know, if you're reading it literally, things couldn't get any worse. I feel like when we have less on the card, there's more. Less is more. We can talk about so much more. We don't get painted into corners. I think like 10 of Wands is a very problematic card in the Waite-Smith deck. Tarot de Marseille. And you know what? I love all of these systems. And depending on my mood, I'm going to grab for one or another. But I have to say, less is more. And this is why I have all three. I don't have an Atea deck. I don't have an Atea deck over here. I do not have a Solobusca deck over here. So, but I do have some version of a Tarot de Marseille. I usually have several, like for example, okay, so here's another one. And I was on a chat with Kelly Burton about this particular deck. So this is Journey of the Sacred Bee. And I did a side-by-side of this particular deck because it has, for the most part, Thoth keywords. And some of them she has changed. And also, she chose to put, even though she was using Thoth keywords, she put the 8, she put strength at 8 and justice at 11. And so there's quite a bit of her own personalization in this deck. However, this deck also has Hebrew letters, and it has astrological information on it. So in answering Joel's question, I have to say all. I work with all of them. And which system is best for a new student? Long run, if only learning one. Okay, so I think I touched on some of these pros and cons. I want to say the cons of this particular deck are getting stuck on the illustrations. The cons of the Thoth Tarot are that we can get hung up on what it's supposed to mean. So what I mean by that is going back to Sharon's initial question. We want to memorize the numerology. We want to memorize the the different paths on the tree of life and what the different Sephiroth refer to. So the different Sephiroth refer to. So we get hung up on the complexity, but there is a lot that that deck offers. Okay. I think that what is brilliant about the Tarot de Marseille is very much what Enriquez said in his movie Tarology, was that there's a lot in the facial expressions. Like he was the one that really started to talk about the facings and to step into the cards and to feel and experience what the people, if it's a people card, what they are doing, to imagine, sitting there with the scepter in your left hand, to sit on a throne and to feel what that feels like. I absolutely love that video. It's called Tarology. I think you can buy it on Vimeo. There's a few other places you can watch it. So whatever system you choose to start with, it's important to acknowledge it comes with many, many layers. And I think the biggest mistake is to pick up a card and to say something like, this is a card of nostalgia. Because this is a card of so much more than nostalgia. While keywords are important, I don't know. I want to go back to what Sissy said. You can't learn the layers in isolation. And so that's why I don't teach the layers in isolation. We need to work with, for example, we work with all of the twos, right? We work with the 4 minor twos. We work with the high priestess. Look at if justice is 11, we look at justice as a 2. There's, we want to figure out how all these things intersect. And I just happen to be using Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork to teach in this course. But if I were teaching with the Thoth, I would teach it the same way. We need to learn the intersections of the layers. And so that is also an important part of studying all of the systems. I have a really brilliant book. I don't have it on my table. I'm just trying to think which one it is. It might be the Conver book. No, it's not. It's the one where he says, if the Knight of Swords could talk, this is what he would say. And he does that for pretty much all of the cards. And I love that book. So yeah. Anyway, I hope I gave you some food for thought there. Thank you, Joel. Hello to Mimi. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate your feedback. I really do. Okay. You're very welcome, Scott. All right, this is interesting. What's interesting when watching Sadhana's playlist is that you learn so much more than about just one system when she is teaching. Thank you. And that is, I want to say that is, you're welcome, Dee. that's how I work with the tarot. And I think that as a reader early on, I struggled with the individual meanings of the cards because no card really by itself means anything. It only means something unless it's with other cards. And while you can do single card pulls, if you do a single card pull, gosh, I hope you have a question. But yeah, so the meaning of a card will shift depending on the question and the surrounding cards and the season, right? So the now is really also going to shift the meaning of the cards. A lot of fiery cards right now, if you are on the northern hemisphere, feels a heck of a lot different than if we are in the winter. So there's different qualities depending on your awareness. Okay. Hello, Kristen. Welcome. Welcome to you. Yeah. So let's go to my heart's journey. That hasn't popped up on. Okay, so how would I integrate all the twos? Also, when I think about twos, I also look at all of the cards of duality. I think duality is a really interesting part of twos. So if we think of one, it is complete, it is whole, everything is together, right? It's the potential of the entire suit. And then all of a sudden that potential becomes dissipated. It breaks into parts. And so in the two, it really is half of the potential. And how that half of the potential is represented varies from card to card. So it is looking at another aspect of itself, really, to understand perhaps, or to uncover, to unpack what that hidden potential is. So the relationship reading thing, right? 90% of readings are about relationships. And the twos are really important in relationship readings because they help us to understand what aspect of relationship is critical at this time, or what it is that might need some growth and development. So the whole aspect of separation, duality, is really important. And I think the High Priestess card really teaches us a lot about that. I also find that very similar connection to the Chariot card because we also have a black pillar and a white pillar and a person, a human in between in the Chariot card. In the Lovers card, we have two humans and then we have another person, or we have an angel overhead. And so the twos are all about lack of integration. They're about mirror work. They're about seeing ourselves in others because we're not able to understand it or to understand our potential on our own. So things like that. Okay. How to go from simple readings to deep, from keywords and set systems to weaving it together. All right. Shall we do a reading? You are welcome. All right, let's do a reading. And I will do a reading step by step. I need a theme. I need a theme or a question. Okay. And if there's any mods here, please keep an eye on the chat. I am not doing a whole bunch of readings. This is a reading for demonstration purposes, but I actually need a real question in order to do this. Well, what about Lammas energy? I need you to expand on that. So you know how we say, let's do a general reading for Lammas. I think it's even better if you can find better words about that. Yes, it is fun to go back and watch old readings. Okay. So let's just talk about Lammas. So Lammas is a sense of abundance. This is a sense of fullness. And Sissy has a specific question there, and I'm gonna go with this, and I'm gonna expand on Tammy Ann's question. So Lammas is about, and this also is oddly connecting to Sissy Vintage Moon's question as well too. And there is, the trees are dripping with fruit and berries. The gardens are full and abundant if they have been nourished, right? So there is an abundance physically and therefore metaphysically that can be harvested at this time. So think about, what is your relationship with abundance? As if you're doing individual readings for this particular Sabbath, what is your relationship with abundance? Are you comfortable with abundance? Do you live in a poverty mindset? Do you tend to take abundance to the extreme and use it all and then nothing's left? So I think just doing a general reading for a Sabbath, we need to understand what the energy of the Sabbath is, right? So this Sabbath is a great, great gift. It gives us things that we can preserve and to put away for the winter season. It gives us joy. There's an abundance of food and connecting with friends and family. It's easy to obtain. So just think about all these things. No problem, Sissy. No problem. So let's go to Tammy Ann's question. What are we harvesting this Lammas? So this is a question about growth. This is about abundance. It's about potential. So what I'm going to do is a 3, 2, 1 spread. And I'm going to see also if I can tie in Sissy's question, which kind of popped up simultaneously. And I want to say one thing to Sissy is that health journey is a great word, but it's about a lifestyle. So rather than sticking to something, it's about adopting a lifestyle. And that can be most helpful. Okay. So here we go. All right, and we'll zoom in a little bit. Isn't that funny? My goodness. All right, so this is one of these occasions where I wondered if the deck was sorted and I actually shuffled enough, but I'm going to go with this. Okay. All right, I'm going to go with this. I did quite a bit of shuffling, but so this is so fascinating. First of all, the number of majors that have shown up here, but also that the devil is sitting up on top. And this particular card, if we're growing and expanding in this direction, we're growing towards the devil, which is it's really important that with challenging cards, you have a handle on what they represent, okay? That they don't feel intimidating. And I want to encourage you all to sit with the most challenging cards for yourself, and to really, really get to know them. But that's absolutely fascinating that the devil's sitting up at the top. So yes, first observation, lots and lots of majors. Another thing that I find fascinating is that in the 2 row, which represents 2, which represents balance and duality, we actually have a card of balance. And we have 2 of another balance card showing up in this reading, that speaks directly to the balance, to the lack of balance that is up at the top. So in this reading, the bottom row card and the top row card are having this conversation with each other. Okay. So let's go back to what are we harvesting? What are we harvesting? We also have a 2, the first card that came up as a 2. And one of the things that I try to remember is that there is definitely some medicine and major significance to the first card that is drawn. This particular spread has layers built into it, and so I can speak through the layers, but I can also come back and say, well, let's look at this whole reading in terms of the 2 of Cups. The 2 of Cups, as it is drawn in Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, has 2 people facing each other. They are perhaps lightly touching. Their cups are touching, and one appears to be masculine and one appears to be feminine, and they are sharing something. There is also a healing symbol in the middle of that card, which is telling us something also about this card of healing that is in the center. So one of the first things that I do in a reading is general observations. I don't want to go through the cards one at a time and say, this means this, and this means this, and this means this. I want to get a feeling for the whole deck, for the whole reading. We also have a 1 and a 1. And if you look at this particular card here as 11, this is a 1, 1 as well too. So it's like the 1, 1, the 1, 1 are balancing all of these 2s. So the general theme of this reading is about balance. So what are we learning? What are we harvesting? What are we understanding this Lammas season? Well, I want to say it's about not going to excess. And so let's take that particular message to Sissy's question. So, what do I need to do to stick with my weight loss and my health journey? Well, that's not about, don't go to excess. That means if you um, don't go to extremes. So, if you find yourself being too restrictive, right? If you find yourself being too restrictive, you're going to fall. If you find yourself getting too carried away, you will also fall. And so there is, in this particular card, this healing card, and I like to see this as Archangel Raphael, this deep understanding and awareness of the delicate balance of nature, the delicate balance. Oh my God, this just takes, I have to get out the Wildwood Tarot. This delicate balance of the waters, the water and the fire, the earth and the air within ourselves, within our physical body. All right. So one of the things I do when I'm studying or even when I'm teaching is when a lesson or when a message comes to mind, I have a deep relationship with a lot of tarot decks. And some tarot decks teach a particular message very well. And I have to say that the Wildwood Tarot has two excellent cards that speak to this beautifully. Okay, so just bear with me while I get them. Six. So in the Wildwood Tarot, the sixes are at the solstices and the equinoxes. 6 of vessels. I need the other sixes down here. Okay. Okay. So this is the card of summer solstice, but personally, this feels more like llamas to me because of where I am in North America. The key word is abundance. Okay. So I'm just going to take that off. That's annoying. The energy of fire and summer is coming together, and through the accumulation of energy, I want to say our effort being put into the gardens and the land, there is a lot that is being created. And here we have, I believe, I want to say that you can see around the edge, this is a celebration, this is a ceremony celebrating the harvest or the first harvest. And there's a real sense of balance. Six is 3 plus 3. It comes together. It's the number of the heart space. And if we can observe that balance, there is a sense of wholeness and completion, which we see in some of these cards. But the consequences, so on the other side, the 6 of stones, the 6 of earth is called exploitation because the humans basically raped the earth. They over harvested, they overcut. And so here we are in the middle of the winter. The hives are dead. The bees have relocated somewhere else. And there's nothing. The earth is parched. There's nothing there because of the way that we have responded to abundance. And so at this time of Lammas, it's really important to understand about excess. Now, there's another really important message here that has to do with I kind of touched on this earlier, but this has to do with the whole idea of sharing. So we get this sense of sharing. So also, while this row is the number 3, and this is what is being created, this is also the foundation of the reading, right? So this is the principles of the reading. I'll talk about the magician and the other cards. Actually, I could talk about this for an hour. So just I'm not going to go on for that long, but I'm going to weave in a few more layers here. It is so suppose we're talking about our waistlines. There is a danger in over restriction. There really is a danger in over restriction. It's really important to allow energy to flow. And sometimes we need to understand the joy of life, the joy of connection, the joy of being together. And if we can enjoy a glass of wine and the camaraderie and the connection that it brings, and understand that this is part of our health, it's part of our relationship with ourselves, it's teaching us something about, sometimes we can really hate ourselves for breaking the rules. And let's take that into we're really hard on ourselves because we fall off the wagon. And suppose we suppose we broke the rules. Suppose we decided to go out on a limb and do things differently. Well, I want to say that we are our own worst enemy. If we were a little kinder to ourselves, if we were as kind to ourselves as we were to our neighbor or our lover or our new boyfriend or whatever, we would all feel a heck of a lot better. Yeah, so take a big breath in and a big breath out. So I want to say that I've got at this point the crux of the reading underway. And it's only through talking it out loud that you get there. If you sit and stare at the cards, they don't come to life. It's absolutely crucial that you talk the reading aloud. Okay? So, this fine line between celebration and moderation is something that warrants a deep reflection. And perhaps that Page of Swords is also asking us to pick up the pen and do a little bit of self-reflection that way as well too. With the Justice card showing up in the center of the reading, this is an important karmic lesson for us all as well too. There's a and because this is a collective reading, this is something that is speaking to something much greater as well too. This karmic reciprocity of taking too much, going too far, yet still enjoying life is something that is very much in development. But I think we're ready to understand this and to allow it to become a lifestyle rather than and I think this is really key. And I think it's funny, haha, that It's funny, haha, that Sissy asked about the food question at the same time because it is so very, very relevant. I hope you're following me. The storytelling is really important. Yes, the storytelling is there. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop. I'm reading. I have a client that's waiting for me, and I just I want you to think about this because our readings can go very, very deep. And I'm going to leave this reading on the table, and I'm going to look at it in terms of things that are arising for myself as well too. And I encourage you to, if you didn't, you can take a screenshot. You can lay it out, on your own table, and just think about some of these relationships. Okay. All right. So if you do want to study with me, please don't wait too long. Um, one of the reasons I take small groups is because I spend a lot of time answering questions, emailing back and forth. Also, as part of the course, there is a study group that runs. So you can show up in a Zoom meeting and come to study group and do your homework together, do practice readings together. There's a lot that is maintained among all of the people. Now, this last group had several people who did not choose to participate in the live classes. This was a new experience for me. I didn't know this in advance for some of the people. And this does pose a bit it's not so much a problem, but what I am going to do long term, and hopefully not too long term, is to offer the same course as an independent study course. But it's so very different when you do it with other humans. And I would love to continue this as a human contact course. Um, but I understand, right? If you can't do it. So there is a course you can sign up for the course and watch all the replays. That is possible. I'm still available. I'm still going to answer your emails. You're still going to be part of everything. It's just not quite the same. But that's there for you as an option. Bye, Sissy. Next Monday in the evening, I will have, there'll be 3 students on the camera with me, and they are going to answer the questions that are below. So if you look in the description box below, there's a bunch of questions, and that'll give you a different perspective rather than just my perspective. Okay. And Tina, thank you, Tina. Yeah, I really enjoyed having you in my class. It was wonderful. So take good care and think about the deeper message for the Lamas reading. And I hope to see some of you tomorrow in live readings or elsewhere on my channel. Bright blessings to all of you. Namaste. Thanks, Clevis. And thank you, Dee.